All right, in this video, we're going to work on this assignment number 4, binding and validating registration information. Let's go to Visual Studio and let's create a new project, and let's use recent project templates version C#. Let's actually unpin this one. We don't need the F# version. Let's select C# and go next. And then we are going to say this is assignment number 4, and for the project name, we're going to call it web app, just as usual. Click on next, select .NET 9 and uncheck configure for HTTPS. Click on create, and now we have a program.cs file to work with. First of all, we are going to create a registration class. So go down to here and just try to create a class, and I'm going to call it registration. Okay, and it's going to have 3 different properties. The first one is going to be, I would think, I'm going to call it email, right? And the second one is also a string, and I'm going to call it password. And the third one, so what I did just there, talk to you about this, is a prop, and I use my tab key on the keyboard. So tab, then it generates the property for me. So I can just use this template to complete my code writing more quickly. And this one, I'm going to call it confirm password. Now I'm going to use data annotations to satisfy the requirement here, right? So first one is email is required. So I'm going to say required. This is going to come from data annotation namespace. When I do tab, annotation namespace is automatically added on the top. Okay, so all of the 3 fields are required fields. So I'm going to add the required attribute to all 3 of them. And then the email address has to be a valid email address in terms of the format. So I'm going to add email address. This also comes from the data annotation namespace. As I hover the mouse over it, you can see it comes from the data annotation namespace. Now I need to specify the error message here. Okay, so if the email address is not valid, I'm going to say error message equals to invalid address. You can come up with any email address validation error message that you want. Okay, and then for this password, I need to specify the string length. So I can use the string length attribute. And the first parameter is maximum length. And this is actually a required parameter. So I'm going to say 100. I think that's big enough, but our requirement is that it's at least 6 characters long. So I'm going to populate the minimum length property here, and I'm going to say 6. And also I'm going to have a error message, and this error message is going to be, I think we're going to use this, just do a copy and paste. So it says password must be at least 4 characters long. All right, now we need to validate the confirm password, right? So we're going to use the compare attribute. As the first property is other property, which is the property to compare with. So here I'm going to just say password, which corresponds to the name of this property. Okay. Now I can specify a error message, and this error message, I'm going to just copy it from here. So when the password do not match, I'm going to say password do not match. So they have to match. So this is the behavior of this compare property here. Okay. Another thing I want to add to this is that the confirm password is also required, right? But when you don't provide the confirm password, it's going to say confirm password is required. The thing with this is that you're going to see confirm password as one word. So in order to show a better error message, I'm going to specify the error message. I'm going to say confirm password is required, like this, so that I don't see it together. I see them separately, right? This is proper English. All right, so that's my class here. I need to create 2 versions of this. The first version, as required, is registration information comes from query string. So that means I need to implement custom binding. This is a complex class, right? Complex type. Therefore, I need to implement the SB.NET Core can use it to complete the binding from the query string to the complex type, right? So we have learned about that. So I'm going to say public static is a static method and it's value task of the type registration, and we can use nullable. Okay, and then I'm going to say bind async, and the parameter type here is HTTP context. Okay, and we can use whatever information that is in the context. In this case, we're going to grab all of the 3 fields from the request.query. So from the query string. So this one is from the email query string, and I'm going to call it email. And then the password also comes from password. It automatically generates the field for me. That's great. So confirm password come from confirm password. Maybe here I want to shorten it because this is query string. I don't want it to be too long. I'm going to call it PW, maybe call it PW1. And then this one, I'm going to call it PW2. So this is from query string. So once I have these 3 fields, I'm going to just return it. So return new value task, and type is registration question mark, and I just initialize it. So registration with email, password. Let me minimize this. The third one is confirm password. So everything is generated for me. That's very good. All right, I think that's it. That's the implementation of this registration class. And then we can go ahead and try to create the 2 endpoint. Right, so we can use the top level, but in this exercise, I want to use the traditional way. I'm going to say use routine, and then I'm going to say app.use endpoints, and endpoint goes to, I'm going to use this traditional way. And endpoints dot here, I'm going to do map get. Okay, why I say map get? Because it says for the first one, the registration information comes from the query string, right? So it makes sense that it comes from, the first one comes from get, the second one comes from the post method, right? And the URL would be similar. I'm going to say /register. And for this one, the type of the endpoint handler parameter is going to be a registration, as what we have defined underneath there. So here I'm going to say reg, and then define my lambda expression. And over here, it could be just very simple. Once I have the registration information, I'm going to say return, and then I specify, I'm going to say user reg.email, right, is registered successfully. All right, so I don't need to specify any extra validations to the email address because that's not required. Right? So in the previous video, I mentioned that we only need to do the model validation, not the actual validation for the email to try to tell whether it already used or not. We just need to try to see whether the email address format is correct or not. So the email address attribute here will do the job for us. Okay, so here I'm just simply returning this. Another thing is that, do we need to check whether the registration object here is null or not? Well, you can see that here we're gonna use bind async, right? This is gonna come from the query string, and